And you have to believe that people want to read what you write. You have to believe that your voice matters and that your story matters, and you have to believe that what you do has meaning, because it has, always. There are people, no matter what you're doing, who wants to find it. I always get so many questions about publishing and writing and how I publish my books and how I write my books and how I got started. I had the exact same questions before I published my very first book, and I googled all over the place to try to find these answers. I didn't know anything about publishing when I started. I learned as I went along, and I figured it out by making mistakes and doing it over and over again and just being extremely curious. I wanted to make this video because this is what I wish I had found before I published my first book. My hope is that this can inspire some of you to just do your own thing. Maybe most of all, just understand that you can publish your own book, you can write, you can do exactly whatever you want. It's all about just being persistent and being curious enough to learn everything you need to learn to do what you want to do. If you want to publish a book, you need to learn about book marketing, about book publishing, about rights, about editing, about how to format the book. If you are passionate about it and if it's really your dream, you just throw yourself into it. A while ago, I threw out on my social media that I was going to make this video. So I have a long list of questions from you guys, and I'm going to try to answer most of them. A lot of the questions are about how I got started and how I first wrote my first book. So, to take it back a little bit, I didn't really set out to be an author. I always wanted to be a songwriter, and that's very much what I still identify myself as. I am a songwriter who also started writing about my journey of trying to be a songwriter. My first book, or how I got started writing, was through my Tumblr. That's actually really how it all started, and I think that's where I sort of built my little, very beautiful following of my writings. When I first moved to London to be a songwriter, I wrote just journals, like diaries, or just very short passages throughout my days, and these were things I wrote in my little notebook on the tube or home from a gig or in the morning. I started sharing some of these writings on my Tumblr because when I moved to London, I felt extremely alone in doing that journey of trying to go after something. And I started posting these things hoping that someone out there could say, hey, I have felt that too, or I feel that too, and you're not alone in this, and I understand what you're saying. Because I think when you feel lonely in something, the most confident thing you can hear is that other people have been there too, and they got through it, and they maybe created something great from it. So I just started sharing it in a way to sort of not feel so alone in the world. And slowly, people started liking it and reblogging it, and my followers went up on Tumblr, and I just kept writing, and I didn't want to get anything out of it. I didn't want to publish a book. It was just a way for me to express what I went through and document my journey and share it with people. I was in London for 1 year, and then I gave up my flat and spent 1.5 years on the road. I crashed at my friends' and fans' couches, at train stations and airports, and I just wanted to be a songwriter, and I gave all my existence to that dream. And that was the year that I really sparked this idea of really documenting my journey and my story, because I thought I have all these incredible experiences every single day that I probably will never have again. And it's such a shame to just let them vanish into nothingness. So I just started writing every single day. I just wrote down the things that stood out for me. And again, I didn't really do it in order to write a book. I did it just for myself, and I shared it on my Tumblr, and I just wanted to share what I went through. At some point during that year, I got this crazy idea about collecting all these stories and turn them into a book. And I threw it out on my Tumblr and my Facebook, and I said, hey guys, I have this crazy idea of maybe writing a book. Would anyone be interested in reading it? And as always, I got the most beautiful and encouraging support on my social media, and that support is what has kept me going all these years, and that support is what keeps me going, because I don't think I would have been able to push through all the hard phases if it wasn't for the fact that so many people have been encouraging in what I do. I went back and I collected some of my writings, and I added a lot of writings, and I sort of went back in time and tried to write the whole story from how I wanted to move to London, and did it and added some personal writings in between and collected it into a book. When I had this book finished, I thought, I know absolutely nothing about how to publish a book. As I was a songwriter, I had educated myself within the music industry. I knew how to release a record, I knew about music PR, I knew how to develop myself as an artist, but I had no idea about book publishing. As I always do when I find a new passion, I just consume myself in it, and I go and read everything I can find. So I search for blogs and websites, and I go to events or conferences. I go study other people who have been doing what I wanted to do and see how they maybe got to where they are, and just try to get an understanding of it. I also decided to do some internships at book publishing companies for free, completely unpaid, but I did it for the experience. I wanted to understand how professional people take a concept of a book to actually creating a proper book with packaging and branding and marketing and publishing it. And I am super, super grateful I did that, because that is what I still base my knowledge on. When I felt like I had a deep enough understanding of how to actually publish a book, I finished my script, I hired proofreaders, I worked with my friends to design the cover and the back cover. That was it, really. Formatting is another thing that's super important. So to create a little checklist of how do you write a book. Number 1, you need to write the book. You need to write the actual book and make it good. There are a lot of questions about that, so I'm going to go through that later, but finish the book, and in the meantime, while you write the book, learn about book publishing, because that takes time to get all the knowledge, to understand what's going on, how do you do this, how do you do that. Everything takes a lot of time. When you have the manuscript, you need to hire people to help you out. There are a lot of different sort of people you can hire to help you. You can have an editor, you can have a proofreader, you can have a line editor, all kinds of conceptual editor. All these people help out with different things. So if you would go to a traditional publishing company, you would be handed these people into a team to help you create the book. I only hire proofreaders, but I hire 3 different proofreaders. Proofreader is the last person in this team. So the editor is the one who helps you with creating smooth paragraphs and actually going into to change your writing to make it fit. I have decided not to take in an editor because I think that the reason why people want to read my books is because the way I write. So I'm trying not to change that. But I do take in 3 proofreaders, and proofreaders, they just go in and fix grammar, spelling, punctuation, and stuff like that. And since I'm Swedish and English is my second language, my grammar and spelling is a little shaky. So I send it to one proofreader, I get it back, I fix all the errors, I tweak a little bit in the book every time I read through it. I send it to a second proofreader and I get it back and tweak it, and I send it to a third proofreader, and hopefully that time I get it back with not a lot of wrongs, because the goal is that you should be able to read through the book with 0 errors, really. Number 3, you need to have a cover. Book covers, of course, is super personal, what you like and how you want your book to be presented, but packaging and branding of books is super important, and that's definitely something I have had to learn through all these books that I've done now. The book that has been most successful to me is my third book called You're Doing Just Fine. And when that book started to earn attention on the internet, it started to be spread on bigger sites, and people started sharing my quotes from it, and my sales got up on Amazon. I didn't really understand why people liked that specific book so much, because I thought, maybe my second book is better than that one. But I can totally see it now, because You're Doing Just Fine had a very clear concept. It's a book with writings about hope and recovery and finding light in the darkness. While maybe my first book, Empty Roads and Broken Bottles, was a little more unclear. It's hard to say what that book actually really is about. You're Doing Just Fine also, I think, reached a lot of people because I didn't write it about me. I wrote that book for maybe younger me or anyone out there. And that's also something I have learned. You can write a book to yourself, but if you want it to reach other people, write it to that girl over there and have that picture in your head super clear. Every time I write to younger me. And this is a trick that works super well for me. So if it works for you, pick it up and use it. I try to write to her. And it's easy then to address her saying, this is what I'm going through, this is what I have learned, this is what I'm feeling, this is what this person did. Because I know who I'm talking to. It's very hard for me to sit down and start writing if I'm not sure who is gonna read it. Who am I writing to? Am I writing for myself or whoever? Then I think it would be very hard for me to find motivation to write. But I know every time I sit down to write, I write to younger me. Even if that is 1 day younger me or 10 years younger me. Because in the end, I believe that we're all the same. And if this can help 2 days younger me, maybe it can help someone else out there too. So book covers, completely personal, how you like them. A good idea is to go on Amazon and look at books that you think are in your similar genre and see how other people design their covers. Because if you can do that, you're going to see that every genre has a very specific kind of look, packaging of the books. So fiction books, let's say romance books, their covers are very, very different from memoirs or poetry books, or even sci-fi and fantasy. Super different. Or business books or spiritual yoga books. The covers are very different. So go and research how your genre is being presented. Once you have the actual book with the cover and the back and the inside and everything is beautiful, you need to find a way to find your audience. This is obviously called marketing or PR, and a lot of people find this a little awkward to talk about because it sounds like dirty, you're trying to sell something or marketing. I don't think it is at all, because the whole thing is that you're trying to find the people who will love your book. And if you're like me, books have helped me so much in my life. And the authors that maybe posted an ad on Facebook or paid for advertising somewhere so I could find that book, I'm so grateful that they did the marketing right, because they found me, and I'm so grateful I got to read that book. So the whole purpose of marketing is to find your audience and your people who will love what you have created. That's the whole point of marketing. In order to do this, first of all, you need to be very sure about what you have created. What kind of book have you written? Number 2 is, who are your people? Obviously, tons to learn about marketing, and you can go and research it and just read blogs or books. But the concept is, try to figure out a specific persona. Give her or him an age. Where does he or she live? What interests do they have? What hobbies do they have? What other authors do they read? What are their favorite books? What kind of music do they listen to? And maybe most of all, do they read any blogs or websites or magazines? Do they hang on Instagram or Facebook or Goodreads, or where can you find them? So your goal is to figure out your person and where you can go and just say hi. Where do they hang out? I have always been kind of lucky because I always think that my audience are like me. So I have always just gone out trying to find my people that I want to be friends with. The people that I think will accept me as a person, who will like the same books as I do, the same music as I do, because I think that these are the people who will like what I write. Hopefully, by doing that, you will figure out where you can find your audience. So, are they on social media? Then go to that platform and start interacting. Do they read specific blogs or websites? Then send out a press release about your book and try to get an interview or a review. My book marketing has been extremely organic. I spend a lot of time marketing my music, trying to get interviews or exposure and try to get on music blogs. But my books, I sort of just put them out there for people to find themselves and pick them up if they're interested and leave them if they're not. I never try to push my books on anyone. I've never done any marketing for my books. The most important thing you can learn when you create something, if you release music or publish books or you're a photographer or whatever, the majority of the world will not understand what you're doing. They will not like what you're doing and they will just not get it. Also, you're going to learn that there are a lot of people in this world who love spending time telling you that they don't like what you do. Your job as a creator is to just blindly walk past these people and say, thank you, this is not for you, until you find your people. Your people are the golden ones, and they will open their arms for you and embrace you and love what you're doing and say, thank you for creating this. This is exactly what I needed at this point in my life. No matter how good you are, if you're Madonna, you're gonna get people who just don't like what you do, and that's okay. Just focus on the ones who do like what you do and create it for them. So that's kind of what I did with my books. I didn't do any marketing. I didn't try to push it onto people. I just put it out there in the universe, and I believed that the people who wanted to find my books would find them organically. I think they have, and they still are, and I still get people every day who say, I stumbled upon a quote from you, and suddenly I discovered everything you've done. And that's beautiful because, you know, books are sort of timeless, and my hope is that people will still discover my books in 20 years from now on and say, thank you for writing that, because I just found it now, and I needed it now. If you're interested in marketing and how to market and get press for your book, you can just Google it, and there are 3 million blogs and podcasts and everything about book marketing. There is one podcast that I truly, truly recommend for everyone who's interested in writing a book, and that is called The Creative Pen podcast. You can go to thecreativepen.com, and that's pen with a double N. I'll have a link to that podcast somewhere. I've been listening to that podcast for years, and she is so awesome, this lady who is running it. She's a fiction writer and a non-fiction writer, and she has just helped me so much. She's doing interviews with all kinds of different book people, talking about how to be an authorpreneur, which is someone who publishes her books and makes a living of it, and it's just awesome, and it's so inspiring. So go check that out. Okay, so you have your book finished, you have your audience figured out, you have a book cover. Now you actually need to publish the book so people can buy it and read it. You can go 2 ways here. Number 1 is that you try to get a traditional publisher to publish your book. You actually want to get a book deal. I don't have any experience with traditional publishing, so I can't talk too much about that. I have never tried to get a book deal. I have been approached by some very, very small presses who wanted to offer me a book deal, but in the end, I have always done it myself, because that way I keep the creative control and I can do whatever I want with my books. I do have a dream of getting a major book deal one day. Not because I think that it's super important if you want to write a book, but because I would love to see my book in a bookstore one day. But the way I have done it, I started Broken Glass Records when I was 19 years old. And that's an artist collective where I basically get to do everything I love. And I also get to help other artists and songwriters and authors do the same thing. Broken Glass Records is an artist collective. And we have songwriters, authors, photographers, filmmakers, all kinds of creative people. I have spent a lot of years just building my own platform, getting my own books out and my own music. But this is the first year that I'm going to sign other authors to help them publish their first book on Broken Glass Records. And I have a big side vision for just Broken Glass Records as an artist collective, but that's where I have published all my books and released all my records. You don't have to have a publisher to get a book out. You can go to createspace.com, which is the author central for Amazon. There you can upload your manuscript, you can upload your book cover, you write your little synopsis, and you write in some keywords and how you want people to find the book on Amazon. You decide the price for the book and you just submit it to Amazon. And that's completely free. It takes 24 hours to see your book in store on Amazon worldwide and people can buy it. And the way that works through Amazon is that I'm not 100% sure about what percentage you get, but I think that the author gets between 30 and 70% of the full price. But in exchange, you don't have to do anything with the book. Amazon is handling the shipping and sending it out to the one who buys it, and you just get a list of the people who bought the book and your royalties every month. I also sell my books through my online store, and there I can sign the books and I can send some stickers and goodies and stuff with the books. So you can buy my books in my store and on Amazon, but everyone can just publish their books on Amazon today without anything else. What else? So you have written the book, you have found your audience, you have published it on Amazon. Now what? This is, I guess, where you just have to find your audience and interact with them. Obviously, I had already built my platform before I published my first book, so I already had found my people. And again, I just want to make this clear that finding your audience or marketing is nothing dirty or silly. It's just about finding the people who want to read your book. You're doing them a favor, you know? I am so grateful for the people, for the authors who did reach out to me saying, please buy my book, because it helped me and I'm so grateful for it. And I do that with the belief that there are people in the world who wants to read what I write. And you have to believe that people want to read what you write. You have to believe that your voice matters and that your story matters, and you have to believe that what you do has a meaning, because it has. Always. There are people, no matter what you're doing, who wants to find it. Okay, I'm going to answer some questions from you guys. Again, I'm doing this video to hopefully help you guys out. So if there are any questions left after this video, just write them in the comments and I will jump on it and answer as much as I can. Let's see. Vero_green98 asks, how do you focus and organize to write a book? I have like 10 I started but couldn't do more than 6 pages or so. Right, I have the same. I probably have written 50 chapter 1 of 50 different books. And after one chapter, I'm like, I have nothing left to say about this subject. Writing is just about writing. Just write every single day. And the more you write, the more you create a skill set of how to keep the story going, how to develop your idea, how to expand the story. Just write and read. writing and reading goes hand in hand always. You can't be a writer if you're not a reader. I truly believe that. And I have learned, being a creative person, both a songwriter and an author, that if I go a phase putting out a lot of things, I write a lot, I create music, I create things into the world. After that, I have to take a phase of putting things back. I have to listen to music, I have to read books, I have to take things in again, and then I can put stuff out again. And I think that inspiration creates. So that's my tip. Little Silver Sparrow asks, how do you decide when you're done? Do you give yourself a tangible goal, limit, or does it just have a feeling that it's done? That's a great question. I actually just know when I'm done, to be honest. When I'm writing, I'm always writing in a state of flow. I'm not a working writer, so I don't sit at my desk from 9 to 5 writing. I write when I have the flow and the inspiration, and usually late at night or super early in the morning, and I write until I have nothing left to say, and that's it. I rarely write for more than 1 hour at a time. And this is completely different for everyone. There are obviously the ones who write fiction who I know have a very clear 9 to 5. I sit by my desk and I write. I couldn't do that because writing is what I do to clear my head out and just let things go and just write. But that's just me. Catherine asks, how do you improve your writing? Do you try to learn something about writing or do you just write? I actually do a lot to improve my writings. And especially I do a lot to improve my English since I'm Swedish. Maybe most of all, I read a lot. All kinds of books. Non-fiction books, poetry books, fiction books. I read business books on marketing and how to reach out with your book. I think that just being someone who wants to learn, you will improve. I have also taken university courses in English, in journalism, in creative writing, publishing, and I have a bachelor degree in literature. I am definitely not someone who believes that you need to have a qualification to be a writer. I will never ever use my qualifications. I will never use my bachelor degree to anything. But what it gave me was, by studying all these books and authors and techniques, I found so much inspiration. While I was studying these different authors and books, I found myself being so inspired to write myself. I also found so many beautiful authors that I had never heard of that are some of my favorite authors nowadays. I really do recommend people to just be curious and learn and always be a student. You don't have to go to school to learn these things. You can be an extremely dedicated self-learner. Have a schedule and be dedicated. Create a list of books that you want to study and read, subjects you want to learn about. You can even go on Google and search for universities' literature list, the ones who do study literature, and you can just pick the books out and you can read them by yourself. But just be curious and learn. Always, always, always learn. So, studying through school or by yourself, and reading and just writing a lot. That's gonna make you a better writer. I hope that this video helped you out a little bit, that I have answered some questions that you might have had about book publishing. Again, this is just my story. This is what I know about publishing. This is definitely not the way. If you have, again, any more questions, just write them in the comments and I will jump in and try to help out. But maybe most of all, I just want to end this saying that if you want to be a writer, you just have to write. Read a lot, write a lot. If there's one thing I can tell you that applies to everything that I have learned, is that you can do anything you want and be anything you want, but you have to learn about the industry you want to enter. If you want to be an author, you have to learn about the book publishing industry. So throw yourself into it and do everything it takes to learn. Read books, read blogs, take internships, search for answers, ask people, reach out to people you want to learn more about, and study how other people have done it. It's the same with everything. If you want to be a songwriter or an author or a business person or a chiropractor, you just have to learn about what it is you want to do. And lastly, maybe don't take everything so seriously, especially when it comes to writing. You do have to separate being an artist and being a publisher. When I write, there is no thought of what people will think about it, or if I will publish it, or how my book will look, or if it's gonna sell. I'm just writing because I love writing and because I need to get it out on my chest. When I decide to publish a book, I let go of being an artist and I become a publisher. And I look at my book and I think, where will this book have a place in the world? So try to separate being an artist and a publisher and always learn. That's it. I hope it has helped out a little bit and thank you for watching. And again, I hope I can jump in and answer some questions below.
Smoking through the window, sleeping on the sofa every night. I think the world grew slower. Is your life as slow as mine? Nothing in my inbox, nothing in the post for 30 days. What happened to my novel? What happened to my plan to get away?